Okay, so good morning to all of you. Today's topic is about the components and characteristics of LiDAR. Yesterday, we have discussed the basics of LiDAR, the mechanism and working principle of LiDAR. Today, we are going to discuss what are the components of LiDAR and what are the characteristics of the LiDAR data sets, whatever we can use for different purposes, different planning and management activities. So basically, LiDAR having several components. LiDAR is a system. It has several components, including aircraft, laser scanner, high precision clock, global positioning system, IMU, which is inertial navigation measurement unit, data storage and management system. Also, we have some ground stations, GPS installed on the ground station to track and monitor the LiDAR. So these are the basic components of a LiDAR system. You all know that LiDAR provides us the data in the point data format, or you can say the intensity values. So before getting the intensity values, we should have these components, like there should be an aircraft where we can mount our LiDAR. A LiDAR is a kind of laser scanner. So for that, we need to know what is laser, how it works. Then there is a precision clock, high precision clock. These high precision clocks are different from the normal clock what we use in our daily life. It provides us very accurate data, very precise data about the timing of the flight, timing of the data acquisition, and other things. Global positioning system, we all know that it provides us the latitude, longitude, or you can say the coordinate system of the data, means at what point you have collected the data. Inertial navigation measurement unit is very important component, and during the flight, when there may be some movement in the flight, so it may be corrected using inertial measurement unit. Then data storage and management system, it is used to store the intensity values whatever captured by the receiver at the LiDAR system, and how we can manage that point data to get the images what if we require. And last one is the GPS ground station. So GPS ground station on the like it is a kind of GPS system on the ground, and one GPS system is on the platform or the aircraft. So there is a communication between the GPS installed on the aircraft and the GPS installed on the ground. So these are basic components of LiDAR. So this is the figure showing how LiDAR system works. So LiDAR needs a aircraft. There may be some platform. LiDAR system is mounted on the platform. There may be also some kind of GPS system on the platform. And this IMU is very important. IMU is inertial measurement unit. When flight or when the aircraft moves, there may be three kinds of movements: roll, yaw, and pitch. Roll, yaw, pitch are the basic type of errors that may rise when flight moves in the space, or when flight moves during the acquisition of the images. So to correct these errors, to correct the error of yaw, roll, and pitch, we need to have inertial measurement unit. IMU corrects the variations. IMU corrects the errors caused in the data set because of the rotation of the flight, because of the movement in the flight, that is known as roll, yaw, and pitch. So roll, yaw, pitch are basic errors, basic type of movement that can be caused by the movement of the aircraft. Okay, and this is the data set, this is the point data that we can collect while we use LiDAR. So here you see LiDAR point data. LiDAR point data means each and every point here is showing a value. Okay, and this value here is represented by different colors. Okay, so intensity, how much energy is received by the LiDAR receiver, how much energy is received by the LiDAR system, may be represented by the colors to different intensity ranges, different intensity values. So this is the whole mechanism. This figure is showing the whole mechanism, how it works. And here you can say that on the ground, you may also have a GPS system. So one GPS system is on the platform, that is on the aircraft, and another GPS system is on the ground that can be communicated the information from the ground to the platform. Whatever information, if you want to communicate some information, if you want to communicate some location to the aircraft, so you can send that information, you can send the ground location by the GPS system installed on the ground directly to the GPS system to the platform. So this is the entire mechanism, and basically lidar uses optical pulses. Okay, that optical pulses are generated by using the laser. Laser is a very common word. You all must have heard this word laser. So laser is used to produce the optical pulses. Okay, its full form is light amplification by stimulated emission of radiation, LASER. Okay, in physics, most of the, if you are from physics background, you must have heard this word laser. Laser is used to produce very high energy optical pulses. Okay, its frequency is around 50,000 to 2 lakh pulses per second. Okay, means in a second it can produce 50,000 to 2 lakh pulses. Okay, and this laser works at different wavelength intervals. Like yesterday we have discussed, the lidar system works in infrared portion. Lidar system also works in near infrared portion, blue, green, ultraviolet, and other portion of the electromagnetic radiation. So lidar works at different wavelength intervals. Okay, and it depends the requirement. Means if you want to study the meteorology, or if you want to study the atmospheric components, if you want to have the application of lidar in meteorology, then in that case we need to have infrared portion of the electromagnetic radiation that we use in the lidar, Doppler lidar. Okay, if you want to go for terrestrial mapping, so for terrestrial mapping we need to have near infrared portion of the electromagnetic radiation. That's wavelength is around 1040 to 1060 nanometer. Then if you want to go for bathymetric application, bathymetry is the branch of science that is used to study the oceans, depth of the oceans, the properties of the water in the ocean. So bathymetric operation can be used for analyzing the depth, for analyzing the water quality in the oceans. So if you go for bathymetric application of lidar, then we go for blue or green wavelength portion of the electromagnetic radiation. Okay, and ultraviolet may also be used for meteorological applications. Yesterday we have discussed that depending on the amount of energy received by the sensor, or depending on the amount of energy absorbed by the atmospheric particles, you may have the information about the concentration of a particular gas or the concentration of a particular pollutant in the atmosphere. Okay, so and also eye safe, means its laser is very dangerous for eyes. If you will get the direct contact with the laser, it may harm your eyes, it may harm your eyesight. Okay, so its intensity should be below 1 watt. The laser or whatever the laser pulses or optical pulses we are using in lidar, its voltage, its power may be below 1 watt, so that it may not harm your eyes. Okay, so this is the some properties of laser, and you should remember the full form of laser: light amplification by stimulated emission of the radiation. Okay, this is the basic, and this is one of the widely used instrument, one of the widely used technique to generate the high intensity optical pulses, and that may have the frequency around 50,000 to 2 lakh pulses per second. Okay, so scanner, what scanner works, what scanner does, and what is the working principle of the scanner. So in the laser scanner there is a mirror that sweeps, that scans to project the laser pulses to the surface. When it transmits the pulses and the return pulses is received by the receiver, there is a mirror that may have some spins and rotation, and it can receive the incoming energy after interaction with the object. So there is a mirror, and it can scan up to 75 degrees. Means a mirror can move between 0 to 75 degrees to receive the entire incoming energy coming after the interaction with the Earth surface feature. And the scanner also measures the angle at which each pulse was fired. Okay, because when we transmit the pulses, it is not like that the pulses receives in the same angle. The pulse may be received at different angles, so that this mirror continuously moves between 0 to 75 degree to receive the entire incoming energy that may be received by the receiver at the lidar system. Okay, and it generally receives the reflected pulses. It generally receives the reflected pulses. Okay, it generally receives reflected pulses. As we know that reflected pulse means the amount of energy which is reflected back by the interaction of different objects. Okay, so reflection means energy transmitted and it is interacted with the object, and how much energy is reflected back is known as return. It is known as return. Return means the amount of energy which is received by the receiver. So in lidar or in laser, the term that is reflected energy is considered as the return. Okay, how much energy is returned to the receiver. In optical remote sensing, we call it as a reflected energy. Okay, in microwave we call it as a backscattered energy or scattered energy, but in case of lidar we call it as a return energy. Okay, so amount of energy which is received by the receiver is known as return energy. Okay, so this is the scanning mechanism. The laser scanner or the lidar scans the entire area, scans the terrain in three different modes: jet-shaped, sinusoidal, mirror shape scan, parallel lines, and elliptical shape. Okay, so the mirror which is in the laser system scans the entire earth, scans the entire terrain in three different modes. Either it may have jet-shaped movement, either it may have parallel lines, either it may have elliptical lines. So how that platform or how that aircraft moves, in the same way the major scanner, the laser scanner rotates its mirror. Here you can see in the figure 1, this is a mirror. Mirror is oscillating in this way. In the second type of scanning, it is having rotating polygon, and in the third type of mechanism it will have a Palmer scan. So there may be three types of oscillating mirrors. Depending on the type of oscillating mirror, we may have different types of shape. If we are using oscillating mirror, it will provide you the jet shaped scan on the earth. Like here ground pattern will be like that. If we use rotating polygon, in case of rotating polygon we may have parallel lines on the ground. Here you can see the ground pattern. And if we are using nutating mirror, that may have Palmer scan, and it may have this kind of elliptical shape on the ground, elliptical pattern on the ground. Okay, so depending on the oscillating mirror, depending on the type of mirror whatever we use for laser scanner, we may have different types of ground pattern. So generally we use oscillating mirror and rotating polygon. So when you see the data acquired by the lidar system, it is totally in the shape of the ground pattern whatever you are observing here in the figure. Okay, in this figure it may have jet shape, it may have parallel lines, or it may have elliptical shape. So this is the scanning mechanism. How that scanner works is dependent on how its mirror rotates. Okay, and what kind of mirror is used in that system. So this is all about the scanning mechanism of a lidar system. Okay, स्कैनिंग जैसे आपने रिमोट सेंसिंग में देखा है, whatever the sensor scans the earth surface, how it scans the earth surface, in the same way lidar is also having some mirrors and there may be some movement. Okay, that is known as scanning mechanism. In the same way what you see in the optical sensors, that may have two types of scanning, push broom and whisk broom. Okay. In the same way here, we may have three different types of oscillations, three different types of oscillating mirrors. Okay. So there is also a clock, high precision clocks. These clocks record the time of the laser pulse that leaves from the system and return to the scanner. Okay, the time of the leaving of that pulse, and when it receives, when it returns to the scanner or the receiver. So this is the duration of the time travel, or you can say the time taken by that pulse from the system to reach to the object, and again after interaction with the object it is returned back to the receiver or on the system. So these are very high precision clocks. These are very high precision clocks, and it is very much different from the normal clock whatever we use. Okay, it can provide you data up to one is to you can say that 1000 or 10,000 part of a second. It can very precisely measure the time the laser pulse receives the system and when it returns back to the system and captured by the receiver. And there is also global positioning system. We all know that global positioning system is used to record the XYZ location of the scanner. XYZ means latitude, longitude, and height. Okay, the GPS provides you the latitude, longitude, and height of that aircraft. So by getting XYZ information, we can easily create three-dimensional view when we have the point data sets, when we have the intensity values. Okay, and GPS is used to survey the ground base station in the flight area. Okay, so that GPS installed on the system and GPS installed on the ground station, both are in connection with each other. So we may directly communicate the information from the ground to the aircraft, from the ground to the lidar system installed on the aircraft. Okay, so GPS के बारे में we will discuss in the next class what is GPS. Okay, and a very important component of a lidar is inertial measurement unit. In short, we call it as a IMU. It measures the angular orientation of the scanner that is related to the ground. When flight moves, when aircraft moves in the air, there may be some kind of movements that is known as roll, yaw, and pitch. If there may be roll, yaw, or pitch movement, so the data, the image, or you can say the values captured by the receiver may have some error. So before processing that data, we need to rectify these errors. We need to rectify the errors caused by the movement of the flight, the movement of the aircraft. That movement may be of three types: pitch, roll, and yaw. ठीक है? Pitch, roll, yaw will be discussed when we will discuss about the GPS system. Okay, I will discuss in that class what is pitch, what is roll, and what is yaw. There is a very good figure. I will show you how we can uh, come to know that what is pitch, what is roll, and what is yaw. The flight planning is also important. When we are going to start lidar mapping, when we are going to start scanning our area, so we should have uh, cloud free weather. Okay, because lidar cannot penetrate through the clouds. So before planning of any lidar mapping, before planning of any lidar survey, we first should check the weather condition, because lidar cannot penetrate through the clouds. So first requirement is that there should be cloud free weather. Okay, and we generally use lidar in the night time, because in some cases in the daytime it may be affected by the solar radiation. Okay, so in most of the application, in most of the cases, we use lidar in the night time. In the night time we use infrared radiation of the electromagnetic spectrum to get the information about the terrain features. Okay, and there may be at least 30 to 50% of the overlapping when we are surveying the steeper terrain. Okay, in case of steeper terrain, we need to have the overlapping of 30 to 50%. Okay, and fourth important parameter during flight planning is that multiple passes at different angles in urban area to avoid the lidar shadow. Okay, if you are surveying a urban area, there may be very tall buildings, there may be very high buildings, so in that case there may be lidar shadow. So for that we need to scan that area multiple times. Okay, that is multiple passes at a different angles. If you want to map urban area, there are very tall buildings, so you can apply the lidar mapping. You can use lidar survey at different angles at different multiple passes. Okay, you have to scan it multiple times at different angles, otherwise it will give you the shadow when there are very tall buildings in case of urban area mapping. Okay, flying elevation. Okay, in case of urban area, the flying elevation is typically 200 to 300 meters, but when your urban area is having tall buildings, it may be up to 1 kilometer. Normally, if there is a plain surface, if there is a plain terrain, so you can fly your aircraft at up to 200 to 300 meters. But in case of tall buildings in a highly urbanized area, in highly residential area, if there is a very tall building, so you can avoid 200 to 300 range. You can go beyond 300 meters, that may have 500, 600, or 1 kilometer height in the uh, elevation, or you can say the up to 1 kilometer elevation you can fly your this aircraft. Okay, so multiple returns are received for each laser pulse fired from the scanner. When it transmits the pulses, it transmits pulses at very fast rate, so there is a possibility that the same object may have different multiple returns. Okay, the same pulse may interact with different objects and it is returned to the receiver. So you may have multiple returns, you may have multiple incoming energy that are received for each laser pulse that is fired, that is uh, transmitted from the scanner or the lidar system. So most of the modern lidar systems are capable of recording up to 5 returns for each pulse. Okay, a pulse can be multiple returns, but modern systems are capable of recording up to 5 returns of each pulse. Means for every pulse, it may have receiving capability of 5 returns, 5 times of the energy, or 5 times of the incoming energy after interaction with the object. Okay, so lidar data characteristics. So whatever the data captured by the lidar is a raw data that is in the form of XYZ values. X means latitude, longitude, and elevation. So the raw data, that is the energy returned to the receiver or the incoming radiation after the interaction with the object on the earth surface, it is in the form of XYZ format. XYZ means latitude, longitude, and height. Okay, so lidar is also having high spatial resolution, lower spatial resolution. Okay, depending on the quality of the sensor, depending on the capability of the sensor, we may have high resolution image point data and low spatial resolution point data. When we process these point values in the form of images, okay, otherwise it is giving you the value, it is giving you the intensity values in the form of some quantitative information. But when we process that quantitative information, so it may provide you the high spatial resolution images. Okay, so what is the criteria for getting the high spatial resolution images? If the laser footprint on the ground is less than 0.5 meter. Okay, if laser scans at a time 0.5 meter of area on the ground, then it will provide you the high resolution images when you process that point data in the form of images. Okay, there may be the density is about zero point 0.5 to 20 pulses per meter square from each 1 meter square area on the ground. There may be 5 to 20 pulses per second. Okay, so if there may be higher density, or if there is a higher number of point values in a square kilometer, in square meter area, then it will provide you the high spatial resolution data. Okay, Third one is 2 to 3 returns per pulses in the forest area. If you are scanning the forest area, so there is a criteria that you should have at least 2 to 3 returns per pulses. Means for each pulse you may have 2 to 3 times of the return of that energy. And if you are using the lidar for surface or canopy mapping, so typically it will provide you 1 to 5 meter of the grid. Means the spatial resolution, or the, or you can say the grid size or the pixel size will be the between 1 to 5 meter. Okay, and it also provides us the large volume of data. High spatial resolution means large amount of data, large volume of the data. Okay, so if we are having 5,000 to 6,000 pulses per hectare, or you can say 10 to 100,000 of returns per hectare, it will provide you the data of around 0.5, 0.4 to 5.4 MB per hectare. Okay, so the number of pulses, if the number of pulses will increase, it will increase the volume of the data. If we have more number of pulses, it will have more number of pulses per hectare, then we will have more density of the pulses per square meter area on the ground. If we have more dense per square meter area on the ground, then it will have the more volume or large volume of the data set. So these are the lidar data characteristics that is very much important to know how much the radar, how much the returns per minute, or how much the area is captured by that laser footprint. Okay, laser footprint, or the area that is captured by the laser at a time on the ground, it should be below 0.5 meters, so that you will get high spatial resolution images. Okay, reflectivity is also important, as we know that earth surface is having different kinds of objects. So different object may have different reflecting capacity, different objects may have different reflectance behavior. So highly reflective objects may saturate some laser detectors, while the return signal from the low reflectivity objects may occasionally be too weak to register as valid. Okay, if object having high reflectivity, then you will receive high amount of energy. If the object don't have high reflectivity, it absorbs the radiation, it absorbs the energy, then you will have less amount of the energy by the lidar receiver. So reflectivity is very important, and the minimum detectable object size depends on the reflectivity. If reflectivity is very high, so you can easily identify that object. If reflectivity is very low, most of the energy is observed by that object, then you will have low reflectivity, so it is not possible to detect, it is not possible to identify that object. A strong sunlight reflection of a highly reflective target may saturate a receiver that produce an invalid or less accurate reading. So here in this table you can see different objects having different type of different amount of reflectivity. Snow having around 80 to 90 of reflectivity. So if we scan a mountainous area, if we scan a glacial area, so snow may reflect around 80 to 90% of the total incoming radiation. So it is very easy to identify snow cover when we use lidar. Okay, here you see in case of clear water, okay, clear water is having reflectivity less than 5%. Means you all, as all we know that water absorbs most of the radiation, either it will be visible or infrared. So water will not have high reflectivity. So it is, it can be concluded that water is having poor reflectivity when we use lidar for laser scanning, when we use lidar surveying of an area. So water bodies cannot be easily detected because its reflectivity is very low. Okay, dry sand, there is a sand area, so dry sand will have 57% of the reflectivity, wet sand having 41% of the reflectivity. Okay, if there are different kinds of trees, when we are surveying over the forest area may have deciduous forest, coniferous forest. Okay, if the, if there is a deciduous trees in the forest, it may have 60% of the reflectivity. If there is a coniferous trees in the forest, it may have the 30% of the reflectivity. Depending on the object on the earth surface, depending on the reflectivity pattern of different earth surface features, we may have different amount of the incoming energy that is received by the lidar receiver. Okay, so this is the reflectivity, and it is very important when we want to map a area, when we want to scan a terrain, and we want to detect the object on the earth surface. So we need to check what is the reflectivity pattern of different objects on the earth surface. Okay, so reflectivity is very important. Then lidar FOV, field of view, like in optical remote sensing, field of view is the area that can be seen on the ground by the sensor. Okay, how much area is seen on the ground at a particular moment by that sensor is known as FOV. So in the same way, in the lidar scanning, there is a lidar FOV, and it is known as footprint. Okay, the field of view in case of lidar is known as footprint, means how much area is seen by that sensor, that system on the ground is known as footprint. So FOV is related to the beam divergence. So what is the size of that beam? The laser beam which is transmitted by the lidar system, what is the size of that beam which is transmitted by the lidar system? So it is known as footprint, field of view. Normally we call it as a field of view, but in case of lidar we call it with the name footprint. Okay, so if there is a small FOV, if there is a small FOV, then you will get detailed information. Okay, if we will have large FOV, field of view, for more complete ground sampling and more interaction with the multiple vertical structures. Okay, so for getting better information, for getting detailed information, your uh, FOV should be small in case of lidar. Here you can see the comparison between these three figures. In the first figure, you see the lidar beam. This is the laser beam. This is the size of laser beam, or you can say lidar beam, the amount of energy which is transmitted towards the object. So this is the footprint size. This is showing the footprint size. So here you see, if the footprint size is very small, so you can easily detect different objects with good details. And in the third figure, if this laser beam is having large FOV, the incident lidar beam is having large FOV, so it can capture the entire object in a single beam. So you will not get the detailed information. For getting the detailed information, you should always use a small FOV, a small field of view. Here in the figure 2, you see all the lidar beams, or all the laser beams are having a small size footprint, small size of the footprint. If we are using a small footprint size, then definitely we will have detailed information about that object. Okay, so field of view is very important in case of lidar. Lidar is directly related, the information captured by the lidar is directly related to the size of the field of view, or you can say the footprint. Okay, so a smaller footprint is very useful for detailed terrain mapping. A larger FOV means lower signal to noise ratio. This is another complexity. If we are using larger FOV, it will result in a lower signal to noise ratio. Lidar footprint is very important when we are going for lidar mapping or laser scanning. Okay, so lidar accuracy, like, it can provide you the vertical accuracy up to 50 to 20 centimeter. Okay, you can see the accuracy level. Okay, when we use lidar, it will provide you up to 15 to 20 centimeter in the vertical accuracy, and horizontal accuracy is up to 1/3 of a meter to 1 meter of that horizontal accuracy. So the accuracy can be improved by flying low and slow with a narrow FOV. Okay, if we fly at low elevation, if we have the slow speed of that aircraft, and if we use narrow FOV, how much narrow we have the FOV, we will have the improved accuracy. And your flight, your elevation of the flight should be low. your elevation, your speed of the aircraft should be low. Okay, so if we follow these three factors, flying slow, with slow speed, with narrow FOV, so it will increase your accuracy. It may have up to 10 centimeter of the accuracy in case of vertical terms of the accuracy. Okay, so lidar accuracy depends on the flying height, depend on the speed of the aircraft, and depend on the narrow FOV. Narrow FOV is an important component. If we are using very narrow FOV, it will provide you more detailed information about that object with good vertical accuracy. Okay, so the we know that lidar receives the incoming energy in the form of intensity. That is a kind of value, quantitative value. So the strength of the return varies with the composition of the surface object. Okay, what kind of object is there, what is the composition of that object. Okay, how much energy it is reflecting, how much energy it is absorbing, it all affects the strength of the energy that is received by the lidar system. So reflective percentage are referred to as the lidar intensity. If it is highly reflective, then you will have high intensity images, high intensity values. If it is having low reflective percentage, you will have low intensity values. So depending on the reflectivity of that object, depending on the composition of that object, we may have different amount of the intensity levels, different values of the intensities, and it can be used to identify land cover types. Okay, and you can see here the intensity values need to be normalized among the flights. So some object having high reflectivity, some object having low reflectivity. So depending on the reflectivity, we may have high intensity values, low intensity values. So we need to normalize the intensity values up to certain range. It's not like that one intensity value is very high, another intensity value is very low. You have to be a average value. You have to normalize it to have the average value during all the lidar scanning, during all the lidar mapping. Okay, now here in the next slide, what are the advantages of lidar? Now the first advantage is that you will get georeference data from the starting point of the data acquisition. In case of optical, we process it on the ground to get georeferenced information, but lidar automatically georeferenced all the data during the image acquisition because it is having GPS installed in the aircraft. It is providing you a high level of accuracy. It can cover the large area quickly. Okay, it can quickly turn around, less labor intensive and lower cost than photogrammetric methods. Okay, all the lidar system is automatic, so there is no need of manpower. It may be pilotless. Okay, the lidar system may be the pilotless. There is no need of any pilot to move to fly that aircraft. Okay, so there is less amount of manpower is required, and the lower cost, it is having lower cost than the photogrammetric surveying or photogrammetric mapping. It can collect the data in steep terrain and shadows. Okay, but in case of photogrammetry, we cannot capture the data in the terrain, and that will provide you the shadow area. But in case of lidar, we may easily analyze, we may easily survey the terrain having some mountains that will avoid the shadows, because lidar having multiple returns, so it can scan a same area multiple times so that we will not have any kind of shadow, and it can produce high quality or high accurately digital elevation model and digital surface model. Okay, these are the some advantages of lidar, and but also there are some disadvantages also, because it cannot penetrate through the clouds. Okay, and it cannot also penetrate the dense canopy. In case of very dense forest, canopy is the upper surface of the tree when we see from the space. So in case of very dense canopy, it is not able to penetrate that kind of forest. Okay, in case of cloud, it cannot work. Okay, and it is having very large data set that are difficult to interpret and process. It provides you the data sets with large volume. Okay, with large volume data sets, It is not very much possible. It is not very easy to process that data set. You need to have high performing computers. You can say the workstation kind of systems you should have, because the data set, the volume of the data set is very large. It is not easy to process that data set using normal computers. You need to have supercomputers or high performing computers. Okay, its cost is very important here. If we want to have the lidar data at the resolution of 3 meters, so its cost is around 200 to $300 per square mile. Okay, means if you want to scan a is 1 square kilometer area, 1 square mile area, then it will cost around 200 to $300. If you want to have 1 meter spatial resolution, and if you want to scan a area of 1 square mile, so its cost is around 350 to $450. So it's costly. The data sets is costly. The laser scanning or the lidar surveying is a costly process, costly surveying technique. So you need to have good fund, you need to have good amount of money to conduct these kind of surveying. These are some disadvantages of lidar. Otherwise it is very much useful for getting improved or very good details of the terrain. Okay, and now the data sets, the format of the data, the whatever the data is captured by the lidar system, whatever the intensity values captured by the lidar system, it is in the form of point values. Okay, and these point values are delivered in the format of ASCII point format or LAS format. So the data format for lidar is LAS or ASCII, ASCII. Okay, whatever data set it is captured, whatever the point values captured by the lidar system, it will be delivered to you in the form of ASCII point files or in LAS format. Okay, so these are the two data formats for lidar data sets, ASCII and LAS. There are several softwares that are required to process the point data sets to produce the intensity images. Qt Modeler, TerraScan. There is a tool in the ArcGIS, lidar analyst tool in ArcGIS. It is also used to process the point values, point data sets captured by the lidar. Leica Photogrammetry Suite and NV Lidar. These are some softwares that can be used to process the lidar point data, lidar point values, to produce it in the form of intensity images, or you can say the images. So, but all the softwares are not free. These are the proprietary softwares. You need to purchase these softwares. Okay. So till now, no open source software is available to process the lidar. So that's why the working on lidar data or the lidar surveying is a costly practice. You need to have good amount of fund. You need to have these kind of software to process that data set. Okay, these are some standard softwares, but all are proprietary softwares. There is no open source softwares. So this is the point data sets. Oh, this is the sample image. Whatever you are observing here, whatever the figure is here, these are the point values. The lidar provides us the data in the form of point values. You see here, these are the point values. All point values will have different intensity level. Depending on different intensity levels, we can provide different colors to the point data. Okay, initially the data sets captured by the lidar is in the form of point, and each point is having different intensity levels, intensity values. Each intensity values will be provided separate colors to identify which is having higher intensity, which is having lower intensity. Here you can see different colors. Each color represent different amount of intensity, different amount of intensity values. Okay, and when we process this intensity values using some software, some algorithm, you may have this kind of images. This is known as intensity images. Okay, this is known as intensity images, but it is produced from the intensity values. It is produced by the point values captured by the lidar system using different softwares. That softwares may be proprietary softwares. No open source softwares are available till now. So here you can see very high details of the objects with good positional accuracy in case of vertical and horizontal position. Okay, So this is the overview of the characteristics of LiDAR data, characteristics of the point data sets, how we can process point data sets to form a LiDAR images or intensity images. Okay. Anyone have any question? Then you can ask. And all you need to attempt your LMS questions on the LMS. Okay. If you have any questions, then you can ask, and you may have some quiz on your LMS, so you can attempt that quiz on your LMS. Okay. Any question?